So myself, Danya. Today's session is about microcontrollers in Internet of Things. So shall we go to the session? Okay, today's agenda is about what is Internet of Things. So discuss about some basics about Internet of Things, then IoT architecture, different connectivities, technologies used in IoT, then various microcontrollers we are using in IoT, and about protocols, and last is a demo. Okay. So, what is Internet of Things? So when you hear the name Internet of Things or IoT, the first thing that comes to your mind may be a smart coffee maker that makes coffee at the right time when you wake up. Or it may be when you reach your home, all the lights are turned on, or AC in your room is turned on, something like that. IoT is not only this type of home automation, it is much more than that. It has the power to change and improve our daily lives. Now it is flourishing everywhere. You know that it is flourishing there in healthcare, industries, retailers, government sectors, everywhere. We have the impact of IoT. In every walks of our life, we have this IoT there. So what is the actual definition of IoT? We can say that it refers to uniquely unidentifiable objects and their virtual representations in an internet-like structure. So virtual representation that means we are connecting so many devices. So the actual definition is like this. It's a virtual representation of various objects in an internet-like structure, meaning that we are connecting everyday things to the internet so that it can collect and exchange the data. So IoT makes virtually everything smart. It can make every device smart. It means a light switch. It is just a light switch until it gets smart. But if you are connecting that light switch to a internet or to any private network, then you can dim the light, or you can turn on or turn off the light from the mobile phone, or even you can track how much electricity you are using. Okay, all this we can know with the help of the IoT, and you can improve your life as such. So that is the Internet of Things, connecting the various devices in an internet so that they can collect and exchange the data. And what are the things? What is the meaning of these things in the Internet of Things? Things is, what is it? Don't need to be our traditional internet-enabled devices like smartphones, laptops, all this. Things can be anything, like any chair, or it can be a table, it can be bottles. So anything you can, buildings, vehicles, everything you can consider as a thing. So it has some unique, it has a unique identifier. So thing has the following properties. A thing is a constrained device. It doesn't perform complicated tasks. The things are of small in size and low cost, and it is usually powered by battery. You know that in IoT world, most of these things are battery operated. Okay, so things are usually powered by battery. So coming to the history of IoT, idea of adding sensors and intelligence to basic objects, that was discussed throughout the 1980s and 1990s onwards. Kevin Ashton first coined the name Internet of Things in 1999. Although it took at least another decade for the technology to catch up with the vision. So adding RFID tag to this expensive pieces of equipment to help track their location, that was one of the first IoT application at that time. So going to the components of IoT, what all are the components of IoT we are using? The basic component is this one, sensors, then connectivity, cloud or services, and user interface. So sensors, in the case of when you are considering an Facebook or Amazon, all the data generated is the human generated data. Whereas in the IoT world, most of the data comes from sensors. Sensors are the source of data. So the data connected from the sensors, that is given to a cloud or a server using any connection technologies. And that data is analyzed or visualized in the cloud. From the cloud, the data is available to the user as a mobile application or as web application. So these are the basic components when you consider about an IoT. Sensors, connectivity, cloud, and user interface. So you know the sensors. What are sensors actually? Sensors collect data from the surrounding and convert it into electrical signal. That is what the sensor is doing. So in IoT world also, we have lots and lots of sensors available. We have the temperature sensor, proximity sensor, pressure sensor. Temperature sensor means that it's mainly it is used in industries, agriculture, environment, etc. We are using temperature sensor. These sensors can detect the temperature of the soil, which is very helpful in the production of crops. In the factories also, we are using temperature sensor to check the temperature of a machine. Another sensor commonly used is a proximity sensor. It detects the presence of a nearby object. So when you are reversing a car, an alarm is heard. So that is due to this proximity, because of this presence of this proximity sensor. And there is a pressure sensor. It detects the pressure. Okay, it senses the pressure. Water quality sensor is there to detect the water quality, and also this ion monitoring, primarily used in this water distribution system. Chemical sensor there, used in industries for detecting any harmful chemical detection or explosives or any radioactive detection. Your chemical sensor, gas sensor there to monitor changes in air quality or to detect the presence of various gases. So lots and lots of sensors are available. So sensors are a source of data. Okay. So the data from the sensors that is collected and that is given to the cloud. And how that data is transmitted. In that case, we are using so many connectivity technologies. The commonly used connectivity technologies are ZigBee, LoRa, Sigfox, 4G, 5G, Wi-Fi, Bluetooth. So all these are the commonly used connection technologies used in IoT. So this connectivity, it actually acts as a bridge between input and output. And the most important criteria of choosing a connectivity is that criteria is it should have a low power and long range. That is the normal criteria. Low power, the connection technology should have a low power. It should utilize only small power and it should have long range. But the problem in that is that when you are increasing the range, or when you are increasing the range, meaning that power also increases. It means power is directly proportional to range. So we have so many connection technologies like this. One is ZigBee. ZigBee, it also have a low power connection technology. Just, but the range is very small. Its maximum range is only 300 meters. It's also commonly used technology, ZigBee. And another one is Bluetooth. We all use the Bluetooth technology. Okay, it utilizes almost 2.4 gigahertz spectrum in the ISM band. The current type being commonly used, the current version of Bluetooth commonly used is BLE. That is Bluetooth low energy. Mainly it is used in this fitness trackers, headsets, small sensor devices that run on battery. All these uses this BLE technology, that is Bluetooth Low Energy Technology. Its range is also, it's very less actually, 150 to 200 meters, usually the Bluetooth range. And other connection like cellular, satellite, Wi-Fi, all these are the possible ways to connect a sensor to the cloud. So to decrease the power consumption and still you want to send a lot of data, you have to decrease the range. Okay, you want to decrease the power, but you want to send a lot of data. In that case, you have to decrease the range. Okay, so for that case, the better connectivity option is Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, Ethernet, etc. Here, the range is very less, but it has only low power consumption, and you also have to send a lot of data there. So that is this Wi-Fi, Ethernet, all this. But if you are increasing the range while at the same time maintaining a low power consumption, then what you have to do is you have to decrease the amount of data that you are sending. Okay, when you are reducing the amount of data you are sending, then you can increase the range, and also you can power also can be reduced. So in that case, the connectivity option is LP1. LP1 is low power wide area network. That is LP1. Okay, there comes the LoRa. LoRa technology. LoRa, the name is LoRa is long range. Okay, that is LoRa, which is also widely used communication technology. That is mainly it is used in the case of a smart agriculture. When you consider in the smart agriculture, sensors are deployed at various fields. A moisture sensor, temperature sensor, humidity sensor. All these are deployed so that we can measure the temperature, moisture content, or humidity of the soil. So these sensors normally send a single digit data. Okay, something like that, a small data. It is not going to send a lot of data. Okay, it is sending a small data, but at a frequent interval of time. So in that case, so sensors, they don't want to consume a lot of power because most of these sensors are working on a battery. So sensors, they don't want to consume this much power. So in that case, since agriculture covers a wide area, so in that case, LoRa, which is a long range communication, which has low power also. So such type of technology can be used. Or in the case of a remote area, all this, we can use such type of technology. LoRa, the range is almost up to 15 kilometers. And its expected battery life, it is 5 to 10 years of expected battery life is there. Mainly it is used in smart cities, smart agriculture, all this. We are implementing this LoRa technology, commonly used. And these data, whatever be the data we are connecting from the sensors, that data is given to the cloud. And in the cloud, the data is stored, processed, and analyzed. So a massive volumes of data is coming in the cloud, and that data can be further used for some using some data analytics or machine learning mechanism. It can be used for further predictions or for predictive analysis. So that is the basic thing in the case of an Internet of Things. That is, we have the sensors, connectivity, cloud, and user interface. So from the cloud, the data is readily available to the user. So IoT solution architecture. So what we discussed earlier, so based on that, we have the IoT solution architecture. So IoT solution architecture, it has 4 stages. The stage 1, it is sensors, actuators, all this. And stage 2, it has data acquisition system. Stage 3, it is pre-processing or edge analytics. And stage 4, we have cloud analytics. So here, what it is doing is that the data is collected from the sensors, and that data is given to a data acquisition system. In the data acquisition system, the data from so many sensors, they are collected here at the data acquisition system. It's also a processor, and that data is given to an edge device. So data from the data acquisition system that is given to an edge device, and from the edge device that is given to the cloud. So this is a IoT solution architecture. So here one new component comes, that is edge device. So what is this edge device, or we can say that otherwise gateways. So here, what is the need of a gateway? Gateway acts as a bridge between the sensors or devices and the cloud. That is, instead of directly sending the data to the cloud, in between the sensors and the cloud, we are using this gateways. Okay, the use is that if the sensor is in a remote area, okay, if the sensor is in a remote area, it may need a long range connection. Okay, in that case, long range means, what is the problem is that if the sensor is sending a long range communication, means that it has increased power consumption. So most of these sensors are working on battery. If the sensors are deployed in a smart agriculture, so many sensors are deployed at various fields, and these sensors are working on battery. And that sensor should last for not for weeks, it should last for some years. Okay, otherwise it causes some financial burden to the farmers, replacing the battery, all the things. So this sensor should last for years. So in that case, if you are if the sensor is directly sending a data to a cloud, which is such a long distance, in the case of such a long distance, then it will take a high power consumption. In that case, it comes the use of gateway. So instead of directly sending a data to the cloud, the sensor is sending the data to a gateway. Okay, the sensor is placed between the this gateway is placed between the sensor and the cloud. It is closer to the sensor. Gateway is placed closer to the sensor, so that the sensor has to send the data only to the gateway. And from the gateway, using this Wi-Fi or GSM technology, the data is given to the cloud for analysis. So that is the use of this edge device, or edge or gateway device. We can say like that. So gateway, it allows sensors to communicate over shorter distances, boosting the battery life. So that is one use of this gateway or edge device here. Another is processing can also be done at the edge device. Processing of the sensor data. Usually what it is doing is that the sensor collects the data, sensor sends the data, and that data is given to the cloud, and that data is processed inside the cloud. But there is no need of processing all the data to the cloud. We can process the data in the edge device also. So processing can be done at the edge device also. So in the same example, that is in the case of smart farming, the data from different sensors like moisture sensor, temperature sensor. So these data are processed at the edge device. For example, if you are calculating the moisture content of the soil, so the moisture sensor value that is given to the edge device, and if the moisture content is less than the desired value, the device will activate an actuator like a motor, or it turn on a valve, so that it will supply water to the fields. So when it gets sufficient water, it will automatically turn it off. So no need of waiting for the cloud to do these things. At the edge device, the processing is done. So automatic irrigation, you can done at the decision can be done at the edge device itself, not using the cloud for analyzing the data. So one application, mainly it is used in this time critical application. IoT is mainly used for time critical applications also. Like for example, in the case of a self-driving car. So imagine if you are in a self-driving car and suddenly somebody loses control of their car in front of you. In that case, it is not a good option to wait for the self-driving car to send the data to the cloud and have that data processed and then wait for the instructions from the cloud to take the decision. Actually, it is not a good decision. Okay, you have to do it at that moment itself. So otherwise, so that is a in between a state of life or death. So this in that case, there is no need to send the data to the cloud, analyze the data or process the data, and return the signal back from the cloud. That's not needed. At the car itself or at the edge device itself, we can take the decision. So that is one application of this. What is the one use of the edge device? So processing also can be done at the edge device. And then the data that can be given to the sensor data that can be given to the cloud for further analysis. Further analysis means for some complex applications. Complex applications or what do we have to say? Predictive analysis. That means predictive using so many data are coming at the cloud. Tons of data are coming at the cloud. So in that case, what it is doing is that you can do some predictive analysis also if you want, using some machine learning or the big data analysis, all this. That is next year, how much rain you get in a particular region, something like that. So this type of complex actions, you can do it in the cloud analysis. Okay, so that is the use of the edge analysis. At the edge analytics, at the edge device, we are analyzing the data. So depending on the IoT application, user may be able to perform the action. That means, for example, if the user can remotely adjust what the temperature of your home. If he is in office, you can directly adjust the temperature of a home of your room, or you can adjust the temperature. So in the case of a cold storage, you can adjust the temperature of a cold storage remotely. So that is the one advantage. So depending on the IoT application, user itself can perform the action. And some actions can be performed automatically also, rather than waiting for user to take the decision. IoT solution itself will take the decision. So if there is an intruder in your house, rather than just call you to alert you about the intruder, this IoT solution could automatically notify the relevant authorities. So solution itself will take the decision. So from the cloud, that data is available to the users. As mobile application or web application, that data the user can directly view it in his mobile phone or any other platform. So that is the IoT solution architecture, and it is decrypting further. The same thing, we have the sensors. Lots of sensors are connected, and that data is given to a data acquisition system, that is the controller. From the controller, different controllers we are using, and from the controllers, that data is given to the gateways using any communication interfaces like Bluetooth, Zigbee, all this, that is given to the gateway. And from the gateway, using Wi-Fi or GSM technology or Ethernet, the data is given to the cloud for analysis and for viewing the data in the dashboard. And that data is available as a mobile application, or it is you can view the data in your mobile phones. And also VUI. VUI is voice user interface. That is the next generation of human computer interaction. What VUI is doing is that it allows people to use their voice to interact with the computer instead of using their hands with a mouse, keyboard, touch screen, etc. Okay, so you all know that VUI, an example is Alexa, Amazon Alexa, Google Assistant, or Apple Siri. All this. Okay, directly you can give their voice, and further the data is used for the data analysis. Then coming to the microcontrollers, about the microcontrollers. So microcontrollers, they are found everywhere in all industry verticals. They are typically connected to the sensors or actuators. Normally, microcontrollers are connected to the sensors or actuators, and you can find it in smart watches, smartphones, vehicles, asset trackers, everywhere. Mostly all constrained devices, we can find this microcontroller. What is actually this microcontroller? They are small programmable device. They are unlocked physical computing. You can say like that. So these are small computers that have additional peripheral either for interacting with the physical world or to take information from the physical world and send it out. So what are the components inside a microcontroller? We have the memory there, peripherals, processor, input output ports. Okay, memory for storing your firmware. You need memory. Okay, RAM or ROM memory. Peripherals are there. Inside a microcontroller, so many peripherals are there. Like timers, ISAT, SPI. All these are used for serial communication. I2C. So many peripherals are there. Input output ports are there. IO ports. Sensors are connected to this input output ports of the microcontroller. So that it takes the data from the sensors through an input port and it outputs, or if you want it, if it want to do some necessary action, or it has to control some device like motors or turn on a light, switch on, turn on a switch, all this, then it is using the output ports. So it has input output ports. And this microcontroller, they alone are useful for many applications, but in isolation, their application is a little bit limited. So to make microcontroller reach their full potential, it need to be connected to the network, either a local network or to the internet. There it comes the need of Internet of Things, connecting these processors to the network or to the internet. So for example, if we are in the case of a greenhouse, if we are measuring the light intensity there or the moisture level there using the sensors, if the processor or the microcontroller is not connected to in the internet, what you're doing is that we have to always we have to check this sensor values, whether it gets the sufficient light or sufficient water. So if microcontroller alone we are using, we have to go it and always you have to check it. But instead, if we are connecting that to an internet, if the processor is connected to an internet, what is the use is that we can get the sensor values from anywhere. Anywhere you can get the result. Okay, what about the current light intensity there, or what about the moisture content there? And if the moisture content is less, directly you can send a direction, you can send a signal to turn on a valve or something like that. So that is the sorry, that is the advantage of connecting a microcontroller to the internet. No need of always checking, like coming there and check the sensor value and do appropriate action. You can get their details everywhere, or you can store the data to the cloud, so you can view that sensor data from everywhere. And whenever you boot a microcontroller, you are boot along with a development box. So this is an excellent way to get started with a microcontroller you choose. So they are designed to give customers an out-of-box experience. So this development board, it contains things like a power source, support for connecting sensors, and even some board have onboard sensors and actuators. So they are the perfect starting point for building connected systems. Development boards are a perfect starting point. So these are some commonly used microcontrollers used in IoT. These are some IoT hardware. The first is about the Arduino. All of you are most of you are familiar with this Arduino board, which is one of the popular board in this IoT world. It is a small programmable device. It is easily connectable. And this is an open hardware board. The figure shows an Arduino Uno, and this is an open hardware board. This logo is for an open hardware. What is open hardware? Like the open source software itself, the source code of this open hardware, that means its schematic, its design, blueprints, all these are readily available for modification. So that they can add we can add new feature for that. Or even we can modify the physical design of the device. So that is or you can create your own board like this. That is, all the details are readily openly available to everyone. So Arduino is one such board. It is an open hardware board, which has whatever the peculiarity is that which has 14 digital input IO pins are there, digital pins, and it has 6 analog pins, sensors. All this you can connect to this analog pins. Then it has an inbuilt LED there, and it uses a microcontroller, which is an Avia family processor. Okay, the processor is Atmega 328. Atmega 328. AVR processor. It's an 8-bit microcontroller having 32 KB is the flash memory size, and 2 KB is the data memory, and 1 KB is the EEPROM memory. So this Arduino board, that is available in different flavors. This is Arduino Uno. Arduino Mega is there. Arduino Mega means it is somewhat bigger than this Arduino Uno, which has more GPIO pins, more memory, all this than this Arduino Uno. The largest Arduino, we can say like that. Another Arduino is there, Arduino Nano. It's a very small device, Arduino Nano. But in this Arduino Uno, you can program it using directly. You can program it, but in the case of Arduino Nano, you have to use some external programmer for that. Arduino LilyPad is there. We can stitch it with the clothes. It's Arduino LilyPad. So many flavors are there for the Arduino. Arduino, it is a very cheap board actually. It is available in the cost of 500. From 500 onwards, its cost starts, price starts. 500 to 1500. In India, it is readily available. So, but Arduino has limitations also. It has less processing power, only 16 megahertz. But it is a perfect starting point, or it is a starting point for anyone interested in electronics. It's very cheap. Okay, and the programming is also, you are using some Arduino IDE for doing the program, and the program is similar to C or C++. Mainly this board, it can be used for IoT applications, robotics, all this we can use this Arduino board. Next commonly used board is Node MCU, same as this Arduino. But the disadvantage of Arduino, not disadvantage, because here we have only only one inbuilt LED, no other thing there. That means there is no inbuilt Wi-Fi or Bluetooth, all these are there. If you want Wi-Fi or Ethernet capability, you have to add extra modules. You have to connect extra modules here. So same as the Arduino board is the Node MCU. But advantage is that it has inbuilt Wi-Fi. It has inbuilt Wi-Fi support. And it has also so many GPIO pins. And the board is ESP8266. It's not MCU. The module is based on ESP8266 system on chip. And it works on 3.3 volt. Mainly it is USB powered. And it can also be programmed without any additional programmer. And ADC pin is there. It's also a powerful processor than Atmega, that is than Arduino. With a flash memory is also more 4 MB and more RAM. There is Node MCU board, commonly used in IoT application. Another one is Raspberry Pi. This is also an amazing kit to learn computer science, programming, and also electronics. It's actually a computer itself. It's a small computer the size of a credit card. So it has inbuilt Wi-Fi support is there, Bluetooth, Ethernet, all these are there. It has USB ports. It acts as a computer itself. So it has USB ports available so that you can connect your keyboard, mouse, all this to this board. 4 USB ports are there. GPIO pins, almost 40 GPIO pins. General purpose input output pins, 40 GPIO pins. So you can connect so many sensors and actuators to this. And also, sorry, it is used to learn coding and build many electronics projects. It can be used as the same as our desktop PC does, like spreadsheets, word processing, browsing internet, playing games. All this you can do with this small board. It also plays high definition video. Raspberry Pi also is available in so many flavors. Raspberry Pi 0 from the beginning, Raspberry Pi 1, 2, 3, and now we have Raspberry Pi 4 is there. It has a 1.5 gigahertz 64-bit quad-core process. It uses a processor ARM. ARM is the processor used. ARM is Advanced RISC Machine ARM processor. It is a low power processor. This is a low power processor. This Raspberry Pi 4 uses a Cortex series of ARM, Cortex A72. And it has the memory. It is different variants for this memory options. RAM options are of different here for the case of Raspberry Pi 4, 1 GB, 2 GB, 4 GB, and also 8 GB is also available. Newly, a Raspberry Pi 4 has 8 GB of RAM, like a PC itself you can use. Okay, 8 GB, then that 8 GB of RAM. And it has a USB ports are there, 2 USB ports, 2.0 and 3.0. Dual micro HDMI with 4K resolution support. It has a micro SD card slot is there for loading the operating system. SD card slot is there. So its price is somewhat, it is more expensive compared to this Arduino and Node MCU. Okay, its price varies from 3,000 to 4,000, about that range. Based on the price also depends on the RAM memory size. So it is 1 GB, 2 GB, 4 GB or 8 GB. So this is one of the commonly used board. And here the recommended programming language mainly it works with the Python, C, C++, anything can be used. And here a micro SD card slot is there for loading operating system and also used for data storage. Audio video ports are there and also a camera port. And there's different applications are there for this Raspberry Pi. Mainly it plugs into a computer monitor or TV. You can directly connect this Raspberry Pi to your TV or to a computer monitor. So you can convert your old TV to a smart TV. You can convert your TV to a smart TV by this. And also it can be used for many NAS devices. Okay, that is network attached storage devices. You can connect it to NAS devices for home automation, for smart home hubs we are using. As a network monitoring tool also, we are using this Raspberry Pi. And for this home theater PC purpose, like coding, all this, that is a media center based tool, that is a local media. So for that also we are using this Raspberry Pi. So many applications. So it is we have a bootable SD card here with the Linux as the operating system. Different versions, variants we are using. Raspbian is the operating system. That is one commonly used. But it supports Fedora, Debian, Ubuntu, all these also it supports. So there is Raspberry Pi, it uses ARM processor. Another board is BeagleBoard Black. Same as, almost same as the Raspberry Pi. BeagleBoard Black, where it uses, here also it uses an ARM processor. ARM Cortex A8 processor. It is from Texas Instruments, TI. We have this BeagleBoard Black. It's also is a Debian distribution with a 512 MB, DDR3 RAM, 4 GB, MMC flash storage, Ethernet, HDMI port, all these are there. Almost similar to the Raspberry Pi, and the cost is also more compared to the Raspberry Pi. And another one is Linkit One. This is also commonly used board in embedded application or IoT application. Like our Arduino Node MCU, this is also MediaTek Linkit One board. Developed by MediaTek, which uses Aster SoC, system on chip. Okay, which uses a processor MT2502. Which is the world's smallest system on chip for wearables. For the wearable devices, mainly we are using this. This 2502. Aster 2502. Mainly for wearable devices and also for IoT devices. So it is capable of sending and receiving this SMS play audio file. So it supports GSM, GPRS, Wi-Fi, Bluetooth support, audio out, SD card connectors are all are there. Okay, so one advantage is that this code, it is compatible with this Arduino. Okay, Arduino pinout and that compatibility is there. You can use your Arduino IDE for programming it. Okay, that is one advantage. The cost is some more than this Arduino. It is almost rupees 7,000 in India. So these are some commonly used boards for IoT applications. And in addition with that, we have some other boards also like Intel Galileo, Particle Photon, Intel Genuino. So many boards are available. So choosing right microcontroller. What's the criteria for choosing a right microcontroller? So selecting a microcontroller, that depends on the on your IoT application or your requirement of your IoT application. There is no need of choosing a high power microcontroller in a home high processing power in a smart home automation. It's not needed. But in the case of an industry, okay, for IoT products in industries, they are more complex. So it needs more processing power and energy constraints. So based on your requirements, we are choosing the microcontroller. So these are some criteria for choosing microcontroller. One is processing power. Processing power means more processing power means that the processor is of more speed. So some IoT products require higher speed. So they can execute more demanding tasks. So based on that requirement, you can choose what processing power you want. So processing power is one criteria. Then about the memory capacity. Memory capacity, when it increases, means that processing speed increases and also the performance of the microcontroller also increases. So processing speed and performance, that depends on this memory size. Another is the power consumption. Microcontroller should be energy efficient for IoT products. Because most of these are working with the battery. So it should be energy efficient. So the main thing is that IoT devices face performance and challenges, mainly for wearables and battery powered devices. So power consumption is one important factor. Another one is fast wake-up time. So ultra low power applications. In the case of ultra low power applications, most of the time, this ultra low power that processors, they are in the sleep mode or it is in low power mode. So when there is a task, it wake up from the sleep mode to perform a task and again it go to the low power mode. So in that case, it needs a fast wake up time. Relatively slow wake up time means that it is a wastage of energy. That means a microcontroller cannot perform additional tasks during that wake up time. So slow wake up time means it is a wastage of energy. So it should have a fast wake-up time. Another criteria is network connectivity interfaces. Most common cases, we have to connect this processor to internet or to any local network. So it needs some interfaces, network connectivity interfaces. To interface with other devices locally or to push the data to any IoT application for analysis, all this. So you need this type of connectivity interfaces. And network protocols, we are using Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, cellular, or something like that. Another is community or manufacturer support. Whenever you buy a microcontroller, normally you are searching for the documentation, how to work with that microcontroller. Okay, how to program that microcontroller. That's a normal thing you want. So you need some documentation. Okay, so that is community or manufacturer support. Always you need some documentation, which helps anyone using that microcontroller for the first time. So which all are the set of tools we want, or how to build the program in that particular microcontroller. So that is the documentation or manufacturer support. And another thing is the compatibility. So that's always you have to check, does our microcontroller support the sensors or actuators you actually want in your application? Does it support it, or whether it is compatible with the microcontroller, or how many GPIO pins are there in that microcontroller? Okay, is it possible to connect all the sensors or actuators in your application with this microcontroller? So you have to check all these things. That is the compatibility. Okay, always depending on your IoT product requirement, you need a few GPIO pins or more GPIO pins like that. So this is also one important criteria for choosing this right microcontroller. Then coming to the IoT protocols, mainly used IoT protocols. Protocols means that actually in the case of an IoT, this devices or IoT system can perform and transfer information only when these devices are in the online mode, or only when they are connected in the network. So to communicate with each other, always they use a protocol. So many protocols are introduced so far, and now many protocols are going to be introduced now. Many companies are coming with their own protocol. So commonly used IoT protocols are one is message queuing telemetry transport, that is MQTT, then constrained application protocol, another one is AMQP, advanced message queuing protocol, and another is data distribution service, DDS. All these are the commonly used protocol. And in that, most popular one is this one, message queuing telemetry transport, MQTT. It's a commonly used IoT protocol. So it is a lightweight messaging protocol. It's a low power usage. That's one advantage. Mainly used with low power sensors. All other normal protocol we are used with the computers, that also we can use in IoT. But the problem is that the IoT mainly used for constrained devices, just limited resources. So protocols are dedicated for IoT applications. So one such protocol is this one, MQTT, where it is a low power usage. It uses a publish subscribe model to exchange data between the clients and the server, and it has minimized data packets. That means it has a low network usage. It uses low bandwidth also. Okay, it uses low bandwidth. So it is a lightweight messaging protocol, that is MQTT protocol. And in the MQTT, the components, main components inside the MQTT protocol. So where we are using this protocol, actually we are sending the data from the sensors to the cloud. So the sensors data is given to a data acquisition system or to an edge device, and from the edge device the data is given to the cloud. So at that time we are using this protocol MQTT. And what all are the components inside the MQTT? These are the message, one is message, then client, broker, and topic. Message means data carried with MQTT protocol, that is called as the message. Whatever be the data you are carried, whether it's sensor data or whatever it may be. So data carried with MQTT protocol, that is called as the message. Client is the device who is sending the message. That is the sending or receiving the message, we can call it as a client. Okay, and the clients are of two types. Which device is sending the message, that is called as the publisher. Which device is sending the message, that is the publisher. And which device is receiving that message, that is the subscriber. So that is the meaning of publish subscribe model in MQTT. So which device is sending the message, that is the publisher, and which device is receiving the message, that is the subscriber. And broker is there. Another term is broker. It's actually a device or a program itself. It acts as an intermediary between these clients. It acts as an intermediary between the clients. And another is topic. Topic is actually a label or a place where a device want to put or retrieve a message. Okay, so this message is normally it is given to this topic. And any data is retrieved, that is also from this topic. So messages in MQTT, they are published on this topics. So these are the components of a MQTT. We have the message, client, broker, and topic. So this is the MQTT publish subscribe model, where we have a publisher here, and we have subscribers here. In between, we have intermediate, we have the broker. So what it is doing is that here the publisher, it publishes a message. It publishes a message based on a topic, and that is given to a broker, not directly to any device. It is given to a broker. Broker acts as an intermediate between these clients. So that data is given to a broker, and that is given to the subscribers. That means whoever is subscribing to this topic, to that device, the broker sends that message. For example, if I have a temperature sensor here, this sensor, it publishes the temperature. Okay, if the current room temperature is 27 degrees Celsius. So this device sends the data, a temperature data of 27 degrees Celsius to a topic. Okay, topic can be any name. I'm giving a name as temperature. That is one name. So temperature equal to 27 degrees Celsius. So that value is given to the broker. And some devices, some clients subscribe to this topic. They are called as subscribers. Whoever is subscribing to the topic temperature, the broker gives that data to that subscribers. This is the MQTT publish subscribe model. Publish and subscribing the data. This is like this YouTube channel itself. That means here one channel it subscribes the contents, or one channel it gives the contents, it publishes the contents, and whoever is subscribing to that channel, they get the notification. The same thing here. MQTT publish subscribe model. So here, this IoT that is using this MQTT, using MQTT protocol, that can be implemented. I am using a tool which is called as a Node-RED tool. Node-RED. It is a programming tool mainly used for this type of IoT applications. It's used for not only for IoT, for all purposes you can use this Node-RED. It's a programming tool for wiring together these hardware devices, APIs, and mainly online services. So it is actually flow-based programming where users interact with the Node-RED, a browser-based flow editor. And this Node-RED, you can run this Node-RED in a Windows, Mac or Linux machine. And also in the case of a Raspberry Pi or Beagle board, all this you can run this Node-RED. Okay, so it is a flow-based programming. It's a visual programming approach actually. It allows the developers to connect predefined code blocks known as nodes together to perform a task. And what the node is doing is that it takes the sensor data. Okay, it takes the sensor data, process it, and sends it to a cloud or to any visualization dashboard. Okay, that is what understood. So what Node-RED is doing is that it takes the data from the sensors. So you can send the sensor data to the Node-RED. Node-RED process the data and it give the data to some cloud or any visualization tool. So yeah, I'm using this as a visualization or an IoT platform. I'm using ThinkSpeak here. This is what I am going to show you a demo. That means sensors are taking the data. So the sensors are connected to this an edge device where an Node-RED is installed. Okay, the sensors are collected. Sensors means that sensors normally in normal cases it is connected to a microcontroller, and that sensor data is given to an edge device. Okay, and from the edge device, okay, that Node-RED program is running there. Node-RED is a program, and in the sensor data are collected and processed, and that is given to the cloud for analysis. In the Node-RED, we have different nodes there, which do some specific functionality. Using that, you can directly put the sensor data to the cloud. It's much more easier to work. And that data is we can readily available. It is available in the cloud. You can view that in the cloud. So here in this cloud as a IoT cloud platform, I am using a ThinkSpeak as the cloud. So just show you the demo of that IoT. No, IoT using Node-RED. For that, I am just sharing my screen. I am just starting to run a Node-RED here. In this, I'm taking a I'm just taking this Node-RED. I'm running the Node-RED from the command prompt. Node-RED is a program, and this is coming. This is running here. The server is running here. I'm taking the Node-RED. Okay, just taking an Node-RED window. So this is a Node-RED. So this is a Node-RED window where these are some nodes available. So this is a flow-based program. So in the sensor data is connected. We are taking the sensor data directly from the device and collected the sensor data in this nodes. Here I am not using the direct hardware here. I am just for a demonstration, I am just inputting some value through to this nodes. Directly actual scenario is we are taking the data from the sensors, and that data is given to the corresponding given to the sensor details is given to the nodes, and that is given to a function node where we are processing that data or processing the sensor value, and from that it is given to you are publishing that value to a cloud. So the cloud I am using is ThingSpeak, which has some topic name. All these things are configured in the Node-RED itself. Okay, it's easier to program by taking each node. That is enough here. Okay, so we are publishing that thing to a ThingSpeak. So ThingSpeak is an IoT cloud platform. So in this ThingSpeak, what it is doing is that this sensor data, it is readily available in the ThingSpeak. So here I am injecting some value. Debug option is there. I am debugging and taking the ThingSpeak window. So this is a ThingSpeak window. So when you are using a ThingSpeak, it's an open IoT platform where we can analyze and visualize your sensor details. So in the ThingSpeak, first you have to do is you have to create an account, and also you have to create a channel there. And channel is where you are sending the data to store. That is sensor details, sensor data that is stored into each of this channel. So you can create any number of channel here. So I have created a channel here that is temperature analysis. So this is the channel I created, and here it shows whatever be the sensor details here. Okay, the real-time value that is displayed here. Okay, so that data is displayed here. So 1226, this is 26 degrees Celsius. Here 29, this is 25.2. So the data is coming like that. At every moment, we can get the real-time value here. What will be the sensor value here in this ThingSpeak IoT platform? The real-time visualization you can get. So from the Node-RED, we are connecting that. So what it is doing is that using an MQTT protocol, we are communicating with the cloud. That's the actual thing, what it is, the actual scenario. So that is about the demo. Then last, coming to the next slide, last slide. About the career opportunities. So 29% of organizations globally and across all industries, they have adopted IoT. That is in 2019, over 26.6 billion devices are actively part of this IoT device. And every second, almost 127 new IoT devices are connecting to the web. So as per a report, by 2025, we have more than 75 billion IoT devices that will be going to connect. So the different types of IoT jobs are as IoT developer, IoT solution architect. That means as IoT devices increases exponentially, the same thing, jobs are also increasing like that. And the different role of this IoT jobs as IoT solution architect, IoT developer, embedded program engineer, IoT software engineer, all this. But some skills are also required for these jobs. Like they should have all good knowledge in embedded system programming, networking, analytics, communication, soft skill. All should be needed for this type of jobs. Okay, so that is the career opportunities are also increasing in the case of IoT. So that is all about this session. So thank you, everybody. Thank you for listening.